Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 2nd of 2023, and given that there's a lot of things happening right now between Disney and Lucasfilm, and their attempt to course correct the Star Wars franchise, which by the way isn't looking too hot right now, between the mixed reactions and reviews of the AHSOKA series, and a lot of the movies, by the way, very far ways off. Even with the writer's strike and everything happening with SAG, it's only going to delay things further, and the earliest film right now is still slated for December or May of 2026. Both of those may very well be delayed until 27. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now we know that Kathleen Kennedy has been a force of destruction when it comes to Lucasfilm properties. We all witnessed what she did with the sequel trilogy, with Indiana Jones 5, and let's not forget about the Willow series and how a second season was cancelled because of her wreaking havoc on that show. Now, we know that Kathleen Kennedy is already being used as a prime example among many Hollywood studios out there on basically how to wreck 3 franchises in under 10 years. But there's more to it than just that, as Disney is also beginning to take action against Kathleen Kennedy. We'll be covering exactly what's going on here behind closed doors, and how a lot of it involves the MCU and Disney in general. Let's get into the actual specifics. Now, for those of you that do not know, both Kathy Kennedy and Kevin Feige are very great friends, and she did play a role in why the MCU has been in a constant decline as of late. But however, with Kathleen Kennedy having ongoing issues over at Lucasfilm with all the upcoming projects, one significant development has to do with Kathleen Kennedy and Disney banishing Kennedy from a massive project being worked on at Disney, or projects. Disney reportedly is getting very panicky and defensive over Kathleen Kennedy's presence on multiple sets of their movies and TV shows, and have decided to move forward with banishing her from visiting their sets of the upcoming Disney movies and Marvel movies / TV shows. Given that Kennedy is a great friend of Kevin Feige and played a role in the decline in the quality of the MCU, Disney is now moving ahead by not allowing Kennedy to ever visit any of the Marvel projects that are going to be filming in the near future once the strikes come to a close. Now, for those of you that do not know, Kathleen Kennedy did visit the set multiple times for the She-Hulk series, and Kevin Feige actually met up with her quite a number of times on the set of that show. And you know what? It's really not that big of a surprise, because at the end of the day, when you look at both Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy, you know, they both are responsible for the decline of everything. This is exactly why, by the way, Kathleen Kennedy was giving Kevin Feige a Star Wars movie deal that eventually fell apart, and she got very angry, by the way, at Star Wars Celebration when a correspondent called her out basically on that movie getting shelved, and she's like, oh, we never shelve projects, you know, they're just put on the back burner. But moving ahead from all of this, I think that Disney made at least, at the very minimum, one good step in the right direction. Does it really mean a ton for the Star Wars side of things? Probably not, but this is definitely a good step in the general sense over at Disney, because some board members, some people like Bob Iger, at least are beginning to kind of wake up. I am not defending Bob Iger in the least. I still heavily dislike this guy as a CEO, as a businessman. He does not know what he's doing. He should have done something like this at a bare minimum years ago. And I don't know why Kathleen Kennedy was ever given the pass to visit the sets of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or many of those Disney live-action remakes. Moving onwards, this is where the story unravels even further, is that this banishment comes as a result of Disney surprisingly being very unhappy with their numbers and statistics so far for Star Wars AHSOKA, and how Kennedy was a direct cause for forcing Disney to delay the Skeleton Crew series due to further needed reshoots and revisions that are now getting delayed as well due to the strikes. What may come across as hypocritical by Disney is that they are still allowing her to visit Star Wars sets, but nothing more than that. Anything Marvel or Disney in general, she is restricted from visiting. Kennedy is not allowing to step foot on any further projects besides Star Wars, nor is she able to interrupt Kevin Feige's work on the upcoming Marvel projects. This was also a call made by Bob Iger, as a growing number of board members knew that they had to do something or anything to keep Disney somewhat afloat for the MCU to make a rebound. Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy remain to be good friends, however. She is now completely banished from visiting all MCU sets, be it TV shows or films, to remove any of her influence on certain concepts to become a reality for the MCU. Now look, guys, I mean, this is exactly why Kevin Feige got his Star Wars deal. He allowed her to come on the sets of many of those, Marvel shows and the Marvel movies, and so I would not doubt that this is going to break apart, or may very well have led to Kevin Feige's movie falling apart. It's very possible. Now, when you look at stuff like this, the fact that even some of the board members now are beginning to wake up a little bit that, yeah, maybe Kathleen Kennedy is a bad influence on all things Disney, but yet they won't fire her. Her contract is so complex, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, to the point where a lot of people just don't want to take the job as president of Lucasfilm. That's also another big factor. We have people, like we said before, Dana Brunetti and Simon Kinberg, awaiting to be replacing Kathleen Kennedy if and when her time comes. Those are the two top contenders right now that are on the waiting list, and the two top choices by Disney, either for better or worse, who knows, but they are the ones that are pretty much on the waiting list to replace Kathleen Kennedy once she either gets fired or retires or whatever happens to her, right? Now, as we discussed earlier, whether it means anything or not, you really can't look into this all that much. Let's be very realistic. Both Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy are selling their home. I believe it's in Malibu. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't really think it has anything to do with this, to be honest, because a lot of these celebrities sell their homes all the time, but it is a little odd that they are selling this house right around the time of Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall going through a lot of issues in Hollywood, and we'll talk about that a little bit further toward next week. But what's interesting about Kathleen Kennedy's banishment from the MCU projects and ever visiting those sets, it's almost like she got karma here. She did this to George Lucas for The Acolyte, for Skeleton Crew, and for Mando Season 3. She actually banned George Lucas from visiting those sets. Alright? That's why you never saw BTS photos of him, behind the scenes stuff, of George visiting those projects, or anything like that. And it had a lot to do with that. So it's a very interesting development, so to speak. I think that Disney, still, they're not redeemed. They probably never will be redeemed, but at least they are gaining a shred, and I say a shred, of common sense. So, anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this below, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.